Have you ever looked down at the ring on your hand and asked yourself, is this real love, or just the expectations others placed on me? If you've ever felt empty, this video is made for you. The unwanted wedding ring. Picture this. You're standing in front of a small mirror in a cozy Danish apartment. The sun is sneaking through the curtains, the smell of fresh coffee is drifting from the kitchen, and yet, you're staring at a shiny wedding ring that feels heavier than a stone. Strange, right? A ring that weighs just a few grams suddenly feels like it's pulling your entire heart down. This is the cruel joke of expectations. Your family says, it's time to settle down. Your friends cheer when you post the engagement photo. Society nods in approval because you've checked the right box at the right age. But you? You're sitting there thinking, wait, whose dream is this? Because it doesn't feel like mine. Science has a funny way of explaining this. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable tension when your actions don't match your true feelings. Your brain basically throws a tantrum. One part whispers, smile, be happy, you're married now. The other part screams, but this isn't love. And guess what? That screaming part usually wins at night, when the world is quiet and the mask slips off. I once read that in Denmark, where happiness is supposedly baked into the culture, the divorce rate still hovers around 40%. Why? Because even in a land famous for coziness, people still marry out of duty, not passion. And when you're living in someone else's story, even the soft glow of candlelight feels cold. So yes, she put on the ring. Yes, she walked down the aisle. But deep inside, that little gold circle was never a symbol of love. It was a reminder of a choice she never really made. And the punchline? A ring meant to unite two people can also be the tiniest prison cell you'll ever wear. Family expectations. Let's rewind a little. Long before the wedding dress and the awkward cake cutting, there were voices. Not her voice, oh no. These were the voices of parents, grandparents, even nosy neighbors who somehow thought they had VIP passes to her life choices. You know the type, so, when are you getting married? As if love had an expiration date stamped by society. In Denmark, people like to brag about being free, modern, independent. Yet even here, under the soft glow of hygge candles, there's a quiet pressure. Studies show that across Europe, many young adults still feel a ticking clock, not just biological but social. By your late 20s, if you're not at least engaged, you'll hear the whispers. It's not written anywhere, but it's there, in family dinners, holiday parties, and that raised eyebrow when you arrive alone. Her parents weren't cruel. They simply wanted what they believed was best. A stable man. A safe future. Someone to sit across from her at Christmas dinners so she wouldn't look incomplete. But here's the catch. Love chosen for stability often feels like eating boiled potatoes every single day. Sure, it fills you up, but the taste? Bland, predictable, uninspired. And here's where psychology crashes the wedding. Social conformity is wired into your brain. Your neurons actually light up with pleasure when you fit in. It's like your brain hands out candy every time you obey tradition. But the cost? You swallow your own voice until it grows so faint, you can't even hear it anymore. So when her family cheered for the engagement, she smiled. When her relatives said, "We're so proud of you," she nodded. But inside, she felt like a guest at her own party, clapping for a role she never auditioned for. The irony? The ones who love you most can sometimes push you furthest away from the life you actually want. Cold wedding day. Imagine the big day. White dress, flowers imported from Holland, candles flickering in every corner of the Danish church. Guests are smiling, clinking glasses, whispering how perfect everything looks. And her? She's standing there, body in the moment but soul floating somewhere far above, like a drone watching a movie she doesn't belong in. Her lips curve into the practiced smile, the one she rehearsed in the mirror. But behind that smile is a silent calculation. If I keep smiling long enough, maybe this will feel real. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Studies in psychology prove that fake it till you make it only works short term. Your brain eventually calls your bluff. The dopamine rush of pretending wears off, and all that's left is emptiness dressed in white lace. Even the ring exchange, oh, that sacred symbol of forever, felt mechanical. Like a cashier scanning groceries, one item after another. Place the ring. Say the vow. Kiss the groom. Smile for the photo. The script was flawless. Too flawless. And that's the problem. Love is supposed to be messy, alive, unpredictable. But her wedding felt like a corporate PowerPoint with flowers. Denmark is famous for its calm weddings, minimal drama, lots of candles, a cozy dinner afterward. But what happens when the calm is not peace, but numbness? When the quiet isn't serenity, but silence screaming louder than music? That's what she felt, as she looked around at everyone celebrating a story she couldn't feel inside her chest. The wedding ended with laughter, hugs, and champagne. Yet walking out of the hall, she realized the chill in her bones wasn't from the Danish evening air. It was from the terrifying thought, I just signed up for a life I never chose. And the punchline? Sometimes the most beautiful day of your life is also the loneliest. Life after marriage. Fast forward to the weeks after the wedding. No more white dress, no more cheering guests, just two people sharing an apartment in Copenhagen. On the outside, everything looked stable. Tidy furniture from IKEA, morning routines with coffee and rye bread, polite conversations over dinner. But inside? The silence was louder than any argument. Here's the thing. When love is missing, ordinary life feels like a sitcom with the laugh track turned off. You go through the motions, but every moment feels hollow. He asked about her day. She answered. He smiled politely. She nodded. It wasn't toxic. It wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was nothing, science has a sharp word for this: emotional neglect. It doesn't mean someone hits you or yells at you. It means the connection, the spark that lights up your nervous system, never really shows up. And your brain notices. Humans crave oxytocin, the bonding chemical. Without it, even sharing a bed feels like sleeping oceans apart. She tried to convince herself it was normal. After all, plenty of Danish couples live calm, quiet lives, right? But deep down, she knew the difference between peace and emptiness. Peace makes you exhale with relief. Emptiness makes you stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m. wondering, is this really it? Cultural statistics back it up. Surveys show nearly 1 in 3 people in long-term relationships admit to feeling emotionally lonely, even while living with a partner. It's the kind of loneliness that makes a crowded home feel like an empty bus stop. So yes, she had the apartment. She had the ring. She had the husband. But what she didn't have was the one thing that makes it all matter: love that feels alive, and the cruel irony. Sometimes the absence of fighting doesn't mean happiness. It means both hearts already surrendered. The unexpected friend. One rainy afternoon in Aarhus, she wandered into a small cafe, more out of habit than excitement. The place smelled of fresh cinnamon rolls and strong espresso, the kind of scent that sneaks under your skin and makes you feel briefly alive. She sat by the window, staring at droplets racing down the glass, when someone asked, "Is this seat taken?" It was a stranger, well, at first. Just another face in the city. But then they started talking. About music, books, the absurd weather in Denmark where you can have sunshine and hail in the same hour. And for the first time in months, she laughed, not the polite smile she gave her husband, but a real laugh, the kind that shakes the dust off your soul. Psychologists say connection is instant when your brain releases dopamine at the sound of someone's voice. It's like your neurons are whispering, "Hey, this person matters." That day, her brain whispered very loudly. Every word felt like oxygen after months of suffocating in silence. Of course, it wasn't about romance. Not yet. It was about recognition. Someone finally saw her, not the version dressed in white lace, not the dutiful wife with the perfect ring, but the human being behind it all. And when you've been invisible for too long, being seen feels like falling in love with life again. Denmark is small. You can cross it in hours. But loneliness can make even a tiny country feel endless. Meeting this new friend was like stumbling on a warm light in a long, cold tunnel. And that scared her more than anything, because once you taste real connection, going back to emptiness feels unbearable. And the punchline? Sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't falling for someone else. It's remembering what being alive is supposed to feel like. Inner struggle. Here's where things got messy, not outside, but inside her head. Every morning, she looked at her husband pouring coffee and thought, "He's kind, he's decent, so why does my heart feel like a locked room?" Then she thought of her new friend. And suddenly the air didn't feel so heavy, welcome to the battlefield called cognitive dissonance 2.0. On one side, duty, family honor, the shiny wedding photos still hanging on her parents' wall. On the other, a hunger for something raw, alive, real. Psychologists say when your values clash with your actions, your brain starts throwing anxiety grenades. Sleepless nights, chest tightness, that weird ache in your stomach when you smile but don't mean it. She was living all of that. Denmark might look calm on the surface. Bicycles, pastries, happy people in cozy homes. But even here, hearts wage silent wars. Studies show emotional dissatisfaction is one of the top 3 hidden causes of stress in long-term relationships. Stress hormones like cortisol rise, and you end up feeling drained, even if nothing bad is happening on the outside. She tried to distract herself with routines, cooking, Netflix, weekend walks by the harbor. But love, or the lack of it, has a nasty way of hijacking your focus. Like trying to read a book while a fire alarm goes off. You can't ignore it. And here's the cruel twist. The kinder her husband was, the guiltier she felt. Because how do you explain to someone, you didn't do anything wrong, but I still feel like I'm dying inside? So she stayed quiet. Smiled at dinners. Nodded at family gatherings. But her heart was writing secret journal entries she could never show anyone. The irony? Sometimes the hardest prison to escape is the one built out of love, duty, and silence. Confession. There comes a point when silence is heavier than words. One evening, in their small Copenhagen kitchen, she finally broke. No dramatic shouting, no slammed doors, just a quiet voice trembling as it said, "I have to tell you something. I never truly loved you." It landed like a glass shattering on the floor. He stared, confused at first, then wounded, then silent. Because what do you say when the foundation you've built your life on crumbles in one sentence? Research in psychology shows that truth-telling in relationships often triggers a fight-or-flight response. Heart rate spikes, palms sweat, adrenaline surges. And yet, truth can also be a strange relief. For her, it was both terrifying and freeing. She explained it wasn't his fault. He was kind, respectful, steady. But that was the problem. Their marriage was built on expectations, not fire. Like a house standing perfectly straight, but without electricity running through the wires. In Denmark, people value honesty, even blunt honesty, as a cultural trait. But when honesty slices this deep, it doesn't feel noble. It feels brutal. Still, she knew keeping quiet would have been worse. Pretending for decades? That would have been emotional slow death. He didn't respond right away. Just sat with it, eyes on the table, jaw tight. And in that silence, she realized something. Telling the truth might not fix everything, but it was the only way to stop betraying both of them at once. The cruel punchline? Sometimes the bravest words you'll ever speak are also the ones that hurt the most. Profound message. After the confession, life didn't suddenly turn into a fairy tale. There were tears, awkward silences, long walks alone by the harbor. But there was also something new, truth. And truth, as raw and painful as it is, feels lighter than the prettiest lie. She began to ask herself the big question: what is marriage, really? Is it a celebration of love, or just a cultural checkbox? In Denmark, where weddings can be simple and cozy, people still carry the same invisible baggage: family expectations, social timelines, the fear of being left behind. But maybe marriage shouldn't be about duty at all. Maybe it should be about choosing love freely, every single day. Psychologists confirm what her heart already knew: relationships rooted in obligation tend to wither, while those rooted in authentic connection are the ones that endure. Love can't be forced into existence, no matter how many rings, photos, or polite smiles you pile on top of it. Her story isn't just about walking away from a loveless marriage. It's about walking toward honesty, toward the terrifying but liberating idea that you deserve more than good enough. Because good enough keeps you alive, but real love makes you feel alive, and maybe that's the real takeaway for anyone listening. Don't confuse expectation with love, and don't let silence write the rest of your story. So, is marriage about love, or just expectation? Only your heart knows the answer, and it won't stay quiet forever. Marriage without love is a ring without sparkle, just emptiness. Your life deserves truth and connection, not duty. Don't settle for silence. Choose a story that feels alive, not one that only looks complete.